Hello, fellow Earthlings. So this is Earthling 6455463728, and let's do some backtracking about what we talked about yesterday with respect to aliens. One of the things that I wanted to point out, let's try to extrapolate. Let's do a thought experiment. So let's look at the smarter people in society. We want to say that the more intelligent an alien species is, the less likely that they will be to, do mayhem to us and to other people. I think, and to other, entities, living life forms, whatever the case might be. I think that let's look at the intelligent people in society as a comparison, and let's see if they do any better, if they act better. I would suggest that they don't, because let's look at people with PhDs. People with PhDs, and I don't know if I might even have gone into this yesterday. People with PhDs, they are very intelligent, or they know a lot, as a friend of mine with a PhD said, about a very specific issue. With respect to, if they're biologists, for example, they might know a lot about mitochondria. Well, I guess that's a cellular biologist. Or they might know a lot about a particular species. Or if they're a physicist, they might know a lot about astronomy, or about metals, or whatever it might be. So the thing about it is that, as someone who likes to know a lot about a lot of different things, it's surprising to me when I meet people, or even hear other people talk, and they say, well, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. And I'm like, in the past I used to look at these people and be like, well, you know everything. And then I realized, no, they don't know everything. They know a little bit or a lot about this or that or the other. Or, well, no, yeah, that's really what it is. So when you realize that as societies grow, alien or otherwise, it happens that each person becomes really specialized, and there is no individual specifically in society whose job it is to know a lot about, or to be a jack of all trades. And if there's no individual who is going to be a jack of all trades, it means that is what might be lacking in an alien society. Somebody who's able to put all the pieces together and say, hey, I'm not a physicist or a geologist or this or that or the other, but I'm seeing something happening here that we could maybe do to improve everyone's life in a general way. So let's say, for example, the leaders of the alien culture, they might be involved in politics, they might be involved in the military, they might be involved in whatever it is, but they might also be very lacking in sociology. They may be lacking in any number of different skills that allow them to be very good leaders. So we are looking and saying, okay, well, aliens are going to be so intelligent. They might be so intelligent that they are blind to things that we consider to be simple. Just like we are blind to things that a caveman would think are simple. Like if we go walking in a particular environment, we might, especially if it's a wild environment, a caveman's environment, or any number of different people throughout our past, if we are to enter their environment, we would be blind to so many things that have been lost, that are not necessary, quote unquote. I think there was Stargate, the series. They did I don't know that they demonstrated it that well, but what they did do was to suggest what I'm talking about, which is that this very advanced race of people who we had assumed to be gods in our mythology, they were at a loss with respect to certain problems that they were having, and they couldn't figure them out. And supposedly we were so dumb. I don't think they ever suggested that we were dumb, but we were so not advanced that we were able to think outside of the box and figure out problems, or solutions, to problems that they were having. So for example, they had all these energy weapons, but they didn't have any inertial weapons like bullets. So when they were up against foes that absorbed energy, bullets worked well. Now, it's really hard to write for a show because the foe should have been able to adapt to bullets. I can't suggest how, but bullets seem to work for a large percentage of the series. And seeing as we have bulletproof vests and so on, I think that the advanced enemies that they had should have been able to figure out how to work against bullets. And there's another, I think it was a book turned into a movie. I don't know if Stargate was a book. I presume it was. But anyway, Ender's Game, where because an advanced species had become like a hive mind, and they came and they observed humanity not being a hive mind. For whatever reason, they thought that humanity was not intelligent, and they attacked us. And only when they realized, oh, wait a minute, we're killing an intelligent species, then they backed off. But it was too late, because they'd gotten us going, and we went and destroyed them. And some of us felt sorry in subsequent books. Some of us was like, oh my goodness, it was a mistake. They almost destroyed us by mistake, so we went and destroyed them for fact. And it was so horrible, and I don't know. But that's the thing, I don't see, people see progress as this straight line, up, 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 up. And I don't think that it is. And that's what, when I was talking about, I don't think that any species would have an unbroken, 1,000-year or million-year trend of development. I don't see it, because I think life is blind. Like, we are smart, but our reproduction has it short circuits our intelligence. Love is blind. That is actually something that we should understand. Love is blind. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. Sexual arousal is something that shuts down all of that intelligence. And it needs to, because reproducing is not like the best idea for an individual. An individual does not want to, as an individual, if you're suggesting that, hey, what is best for me? Well, what's best for me is probably to make sure that this entity is healthy, as healthy as possible. Because when this entity dies, I die. Of course, there are benefits for me and for other individuals to reproduce, because you have help, in case you have enemies, like I'm an individual and I have enemies, and my enemies are reproducing and I'm not, that's probably not helpful to me. So it's probably better that when times are good, I make an investment in order to have people who have my back to help me to get rid of my enemy. But, on a day-to-day basis, putting aside resources to have another entity it's setting yourself up for, you bring yourself down, hopefully, to invest in the future. But all of that happens it's not a logical thing. The difference between us and a mouse and a worm becomes small when it comes down to reproduction. When it comes to reproduction, and I would suggest that it's more than reproduction. When it comes to food, when it comes to fear, when it comes to survival, all of the intelligence in the world disappears because we've already kind of figured that out in a general sort of way. We've already figured it out, which is that we have to reproduce. The entities that did not give reproduction the priority that it deserved, they don't exist. They're dust, they're air, they are anything you look around and see that we absorb to become us. That's what these entities become. So here it is, that's what they don't come out of. So the thing about it is that even a 1,000,000-year-old species, alien species, is going to have these these unsuppressible desires and urges and whatever, whether it's fear or happiness or the need to eat, the need to consume, the need for more, the need to reproduce. Because if you get so intelligent so that you can suppress easily these urges, then you won't exist. These are the bottom line base urges. You have an urge and an instinctual need to breathe, because you have to. If you think your way out of breathing, then you're dead and there's no more of you. If you think your way out of reproducing as much as you can, the other guy's going to do it and overwhelm you. If you think your way out of conquest, the other guy is going to conquer you and is going to put you at the bottom of the food chain and grind you into the dust. So when we look at Star Trek, stuff like what happens with the Klingons, to have such a primal species and to have such an intellectual species as the Vulcans, who I think were fighting with the Klingons, and maybe the Klingons got some of their technology and so on. And then when you look at the Vulcans themselves, as intelligent as the Vulcans are, when it comes to breeding, and reproducing, they lose all of that. They just go mad. They go stark raving mad, because you have to have those urges in order to do the bare minimum. You have to have those reflex actions like swallowing and breathing and excreting and looking for food and all of those base actions. We can't get rid of them because we need them to exist. And unfortunately, those same actions, when we're too successful, we can't get rid of them at that point either. And when we're too successful, we can bury ourselves. We can bury ourselves because, and I think that's what keeps happening to any species. You need your base urges in order to survive. Then you start making headway, then you start accelerating. But the problem is, you start accelerating and progressing oftentimes too quickly to adapt to what you are effecting, the changes that you're effecting. And you keep going faster and faster and faster until you run into a wall. And then it's Armageddon. And then it's doomsday. And then it's, Revelations and the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And then all of, like the collapse of a civilization like Rome, or the collapse of Egyptian empire, or the collapse of the Bronze Age. That's what happens because it's hard to succeed and evolve at the same time. So this unbroken succession of intelligence that we would be looking at aliens to have, I'm not seeing how it can happen when it's plain, if we look at it, we do a thought experiment just like Einstein did to figure out how light and time worked, and distance and all these different things. The same thought experiments that he used to realize the nature of reality. It's the same experiments that we can do and see that it doesn't matter what life is composed of. They're going to be the same similar parameters in terms of its progress, in terms of what happens when that progress starts to go faster and faster, and there's nothing to control the progress of a society, and it uses out its resources and it collapses over and over and over. So yeah, there's that. Another thing that, I feel like I've spoken to what I was talking about. These are some things that I was thinking about during the day. Now, what I had intended to speak about too was, and I guess what I'm doing now is I'm just going to talk, because I spent a little amount of time trying to come up with clever images, and I feel like I'm running out of doing that, and I don't really want to devote too much energy to doing that, so I'm going to have just kind of boring just text, maybe, because I don't know about anybody else, but I do a lot of stuff where I just really want to have a YouTube thing to listen to, and I'm really excited that some people have these great images to look at on YouTube, but for me they're distraction. A lot of times I have to purposefully go looking for a subject that I'm interested in, and at the same time I don't have to look at the screen for anything, because I have to attend to my uncle, or I have to cook, or whatever I'm doing, and I can't look at the screen. I have my phone with me and I just can't look at the screen. So I am happy to have a podcast kind of thing where I can just learn about a particular subject or hear somebody's opinion on something and use that to go over it in my head. So I'm not, and one of the podcasts that I like that is on YouTube is Joe Rogan's podcast. And as I guess Joe Rogan has realized, he can't put up half of the things that Jamie finds on YouTube, or on the internet, sorry, because of a copyright strike of this or that or the other. So that's great. So there's nothing for me to have to stop and look at while I'm listening to a Joe Rogan YouTube podcast. So, but something else that I wanted to talk about today was, I made a video about change, about how to have effective change. And one of the things, I don't feel like I covered it well, was that I fixed a washing machine the other day, and I'm learning Korean and other things. And some of these things, like when I looked at the YouTube video for repairing a washing machine the first time, I was like, heck no, I am not doing that. And luckily, I don't think I had to, but then something else went wrong with the washing machine, and that was the only thing, that same original video that I did not want to do, which basically was taking the washing machine apart down to the very foundation of it. That was what I had to do. and then I had to go looking for parts in different places, calling up people and asking them if they knew about where I could get a tub and all this other stuff. So what I realized was I needed to find a way to make myself less intimidated about fixing the washing machine. And same thing with respect to Korean. I mean, Korean is like a task, like fixing the washing machine. But what I've had to do is I've had to obviously break it down into, 2 hours every day if there's nothing that disrupts that. And my improvement, I feel so frustrated sometimes, like I may have mentioned, that I'm not improving. But it's like a kid would feel so frustrated that they're not growing if they check themselves every single day, but they're growing, Of course, a kid grows whether they try to or not, as long as they're eating. But I have to stay on a particular path in order to learn Korean, in order to learn about relativity, in order to learn about whatever it is that, I have a goal to be really good at in the future. If I would respect to my finances, if I know that I need to get a high interest account, or I know that I need to try and do something with respect to society, making it a better place, if I have a long-term goal for that or whatever, I need to put things in place where, number one, that I don't forget. If it's not something that I'm doing every day, like I have a calendar just full of ideas of things that I want to do, but I'm not going to find the time to do between taking care of my uncle as it is right now, as long as he's around, and between studying at least 2 hours for Korean, and between like learning about relativity and all of these other things. These are things that are in the future that, unfortunately, when my uncle passes, there'll be more time for that. When I feel like I've learned Korean to a sufficient degree, then there'll be more time for that. Just my desire for general knowledge as well, is something that I have as well, that I have to put aside time for. So, but anyway, my point is that in order to make that change in myself, in order to make things seem less intimidating, I have to break them up into parts. And initially that YouTube video felt so overwhelming, and then I realized, okay, I just have to keep watching it every so often, just take it in, look at it, and then after a while I felt like, okay, this is not so intimidating. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. That's not so bad, and even doing it was kind of difficult, because the washing machine was rusted, and I needed to sand it, I needed to put on primer, I needed to put like several coats of primer. So one day I paint, because I have an hour to sand all over the place. Then I realized, well, I may as well sand on the inside of it too. And then I realized, I need to unscrew this other part and sand here. And then the frame of it, I needed to sand the frame of it too. And then the tub that I got, I needed to put aside a day in order to find a proper tub to replace the one that I had. And I would say that it took me, weeks and weeks, if not months, to do the whole thing, because if I had tried to do it like in one go, it really wasn't going to happen. But by breaking it up and taking a lot longer than I would have liked, but having it in small doable chunks, the whole thing became doable. And I think that maybe I want to talk about that more at some point, but for now, wish me luck, guys. So you can like or unlike, you can comment about why you did or you didn't like it, you can subscribe and or share, and let's see if we can get these views up to like 2 views of video every so often. All right, anyway guys, peace.